Summit County Court of Common Pleas is again in session. Adam Christian Crunchy presiding.
Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. D'Angelo, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, the stable has a call of Luz Lopez. You're muted, Ms. Lopez. There you go.
All right, pursuant to the Supreme Court of Ohio, I'm going to administer the oath by video. Ms. Lopez, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Due to the video conferencing technology, if you'll just make sure you wait until the question is completely asked before you answer. If not, it tends to cut off the other person when they're talking.
Okay.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Ma'am, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Luz Lopez, Lopez.
Ms. Lopez, can you tell the jury where you're employed?
AT&T.
Where is AT&T primarily located?
The office I work with is in West Palm Beach, Florida.
And what do you do for AT&T?
I am a custodian of records.
How long have you been a custodian of records?
Oh, a little over 2.5 years.
Can you tell the jury what your educational background is or what type of training you've undergone to become a record custodian for AT&T?
As far as training with the company, I've been working with them for over 10 years in different departments. The training for my particular role is constant. I mean, I'm constantly being updated on how to do this correctly, looking at records, so I am frequently trained. In terms of educational background, I have a graduate degree in mental health counseling.
What do your job duties entail as a record custodian for AT&T?
I appear on behalf of AT&T to fulfill legal demands. So when AT&T records are being submitted for a case, I testify to the truth and accuracy of the records that are being submitted.
Did your company, AT&T, provide records in this case, the State of Ohio versus Stanley Ford?
Yes.
And I'm going to share a screen with you, ma'am. Do you see that screen?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to direct your attention to what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 148. Do you recognize those documents there that you see on your screen?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury how you recognize them?
I reviewed these records. There's it'll say report AU, and then it has a code next to it. So these are AT&T records provided.
Okay.
I've seen them.
These were the records that you provided in this case?
Yes.
Do they fairly and accurately depict the records that were provided by your company in this case?
Yes.
Are AT&T records kept in the regular course of the business activity of AT&T?
Yes.
Are they generated soon after the events that are reflected in the records occur?
Yes.
And is it the regular practice of AT&T to make records such as these for their subscribers?
Yes.
Okay. And we're not going to go into the records in specific right now, ma'am, but just generally I'm going to ask you, what time is this, are these records kept in? What time zone?
They're kept in UTC.
Okay. And UTC is what?
It's universal time coordinate. It's an interpretation of time. AT&T stores their records in UTC because we work in so many different areas, and that way we don't have to convert it into different time zones based on the location or the information we're pulling. And so we keep them in UTC. So they're queried in whatever the time zone is for that particular record, but they're actually stored in UTC.
And what's the difference between UTC and Eastern Standard Time, if you know the answer?
It's 4 to 5 hours, depending on daylight savings time.
Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
Are you going to open those?
She said she recognizes them, but I can open them for the court. Ma'am, what is this document here that I'm showing you?
The one that's highlighted is the AT&T Records Key. So this is a key to help you read the records. It provides information on the different sections in a record that AT&T provides. It also provides information on the acronyms and some of the things that you'll see within the record. It just helps you be able to navigate through the records and actually have an understanding of what you're looking at.
Okay, what are we looking at here with this record?
I'm not seeing anything on my end just yet. I'm just seeing the highlighted gray bar.
Do you see this? Do you see this now, ma'am?
No, it's just the gray bar highlighting the report AU.
Okay.
But nothing got populated.
What do you see now, ma'am, Ms. Lopez?
The same thing. The report AU is highlighted with a gray bar.
Did you see new share up there?
Yeah, I think I have to open all of these and then share them individually, which I can do. Ma'am, do you see this document here?
Yes.
Tell the jury what this is.
This is a historical precision location information report. It just shows us an estimate. There's a little blurb there, but it says that it provides us an estimate of the location of a device. And right below the title, we could actually see what it gives us a blurb of what's involved or included in this report. And then we have the phone number associated, which if we look below that bar, it'll say usage 4, and it shows us a phone number. So that's the phone number 234-263-9140.
This document, what do you see here?
This is a wireline record. We see the title at the top, and it's also for phone number, same phone number. And it's any phone calls that are made or received to a regular landline. So a regular phone line, whether it's in a house or in a business, will show up on this record.
This is once again for the same phone number?
The same phone number, yes. It says voice usage 4, and then to the right hand, we can see the phone number.
What is this document?
This is the subscriber information form. This just shows us the name, if there is, that's for the financial liable party. So we have the name of, right below it where it says financial liable party, we have name to the right of that. And then it'll show the link party information like a name and address, and then it also will show us the phone number associated.
Okay. Does this look like this 123 Yorktown Street, Yorktown, Georgia? Is that a valid address, or is that something AT&T puts in?
This is usually this is not a valid address. If we scroll up on the record, if you could just move it up, this is a prepaid account, and we could see that below user information. So whenever it's a prepaid account, you could in essence put in any information because there's not a credit check or anything that requires specific information. And so you'll see sometimes where it'll come up with just random addresses or very limited information.
In this final document here, what are we looking at here, ma'am?
This is mobility records. So these are records for a mobile number. In this case, it's voice, which means phone calls. So So any phone calls, anything on this report would be phone calls coming in and out of a mobile device.
Okay. All right, any other questions, Judge?
Mr. Ryder, maximize the screen for.
Sure.
Good morning, Ms. Lopez. My name is Scott Riley. You can't see my co-counsel here today, Joe Gorman, but we represent Stanley Ford. I have just a very few questions for you. I think you started off your testimony by saying that the Summit County Prosecutor's Office requested records and you provided those records, correct?
Yes.
And the request came via a subpoena, correct?
Correct.
And the subpoena requested all records from AT&T from a specific phone number, correct?
Yes.
And that phone number was area code 234-263-9140, correct?
Correct.
And those are the records that you identified today, correct?
Correct.
You were not asked for any and all records of phones associated with a Patrick Boggs, correct?
I didn't see anything on the subpoena I could only see for the specific phone number, so it wouldn't show me anything more than what was actually,
Right. So
what I'm actually speaking.
you were requested to find records on one specific phone number, not all phone records associated with one individual, correct?
Correct. What I looked at was for a specific phone number.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr.
You're
D'Angelo?
welcome.
We don't have any other questions.
Okay, so you can excuse her, and then we'll have Mr. Masich put the next witness into the room from the meeting.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You can leave, and then we'll bring in the other one.
Okay.
I guess I have the ability to do that. Call your next witness.
State's going to call Jenny Tomlin. Ms. Tomlin? Okay.
Can you hear us, ma'am?
Yes.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right, and so with testimony by video conferencing, if you'll just make sure before you answer a question that the question's been fully asked. If you talk too soon, it will override then the question, and the court reporter will have a hard time making sure that all of that testimony is heard.
I understand.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Yes, it's Jenny Tomalin. That's T-O-M as in Mary, A-L-I-N as in Nancy.
Where are you employed?
Verizon Wireless.
And what do you do for Verizon Wireless?
I'm a senior analyst in executive relations.
Where is Verizon Wireless primarily located?
New Jersey is our headquarters.
You said you're a senior analyst in what, ma'am?
Executive relations.
Okay. And what do your job and duties entail as a senior analyst and executive relations?
My duties vary, but my main duty is to appear in court as a custodian of records to authenticate records produced.
What type of educational background or training did you undergo to be able to have this position?
I do have a partial college education. However, I have been working for the company for many, many years and worked as a custodian of records for several years. Every year I undergo a refresher training to update any policies or procedures that may impact our records retention and production as well.
And Ms. Tomlin, did your company, Verizon Wireless or Verizon, provide records in the case of the state of Ohio versus Stanley Ford?
Yes, we did.
All You've had a chance to view those records prior to coming on this Zoom call or Ring Central call?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I'm going to share the screen with you. Ma'am, what do you see now on your screen, just to verify?
I see 3 folders.
Okay. I'm going to direct your attention first to this set of documents. It's labeled States Exhibit 149. Do you recognize these records?
Yes, I do.
Tell the jury what these are.
These were the records that Verizon Wireless produced for telephone number 330-842-2833.
Okay. I'm going to go into states the other exhibit, and then I'm going to ask you specifically questions about these records, okay?
Okay.
Next, I'm going to draw your attention to States Exhibit 150. Do you recognize these documents?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell the jury what these are?
These are records that were produced for telephone number 330-221-1930.
Ms. Tomlin, the records that you viewed in States Exhibits 149 and 150, are they kept in the regular course of the business activity of Verizon Wireless?
Yes, they are.
And are the records generated soon after the events that occur on them occur?
Yes, they are.
And is it the regular practice of Verizon Wireless to keep records such as these for their subscribers?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Ma'am, we'll talk about States Exhibit 150 since we're there right now.
Okay.
What do you see on your screen there, ma'am?
Right now, I see your computer attempting to open a file. I just have the little blue icon scrolling.
Okay.
The Excel file hasn't been pulled up yet, though.
Okay. What do you see now, ma'am?
Now I see the Excel file opened up.
Tell the jury what this document is.
This is a record of incoming and outgoing calls with cell sites.
Okay. And so because it's in an Excel document, do you have to move these columns here?
Yes, I do recommend expanding the columns. If you take your cursor to the left-hand most corner box, and that works too.
Yeah, that's the way I do it, I guess. So, ma'am, these records kind of show you phone numbers. Is that fair? Or phone numbers?
Yes, it does.
All right. And tell the jury how long these records for this particular cell phone number, when do they end?
I'm sorry, you broke up at the end of your question. You asked when do they what?
When do they begin and when do they end?
These records are reflected from May 1st, 2017 to May 11th, 2017.
Do you know what the request was in the subpoena that your company received?
I don't remember right offhand.
Okay. Is this the sum or complete record that your company has provided, at least for this document, the cell site, incoming and outgoing?
It appears to be.
Okay, so it ended on 5/11 of 2017?
Yes.
We're still on States Exhibit 150. Ms. Tomlin, can you tell the jury what you're looking at here, or what they're looking at?
This is an explanation form for the call detail with cell site report.
Okay. And this has your company up here, Verizon Wireless?
Yes, it does.
Can you tell the jury what we're looking at here, ma'am? Still on State's Exhibit 150.
This is an explanation form for the text messaging detail report.
Can you tell us what we're looking at here in this document? I believe it's labeled Subscriber Information of State's Exhibit 150.
Yes, this is the subscriber information.
Okay, and so that's the person who owns the phone?
I'm sorry, could you
Or
repeat?
the person who the phone is assigned to?
Correct, the account owner or financial responsible party.
Okay. Okay. If this is the account, can you see my cursor, ma'am?
Here, I keep having to move the, there we go. Okay, I do see your cursor.
And that's the account number there?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and this is the, is this the phone number that the records are for?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And the final document in State's Exhibit 150. Ma'am, can you tell the jury what we're looking at here?
This is a text messaging detail report.
No text messages.
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
It doesn't appear that there are any text messages. Is that fair?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Next, ma'am, I'm going to talk to you about State's Exhibit 149. I'm going to just do some of the, probably the cell site and the subscriber information for you to look at. Can you tell the jury what we're looking at here in State's Exhibit 149?
This is a call detail report with cell sites.
And for what phone number?
330-842-2833.
Is this the entire record that Verizon Wireless has or has provided in this particular case for Verizon for this phone number?
Yes, it is.
And what is the date that we're looking at here, the date range?
Records begin May 1st, 2017, and go to May 11th, 2017.
What time zone are your records kept in at Verizon Wireless?
They vary depending on the records. With call detail records with cell sites, the time zone reflected are that of the cell sites that are handling, the first cell site that handled the call.
So that would be in the time zone where the call occurred?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Tomlin, can you tell the jury what we're looking at here?
This is subscriber information.
Okay. This is the account number here, and then the subscriber.
Yes, that's correct.
And the final document we're going to look at, I think it says text message detail. State's Exhibit 149. Ma'am, can you tell the jury what we're looking at here in this document, State's Exhibit 149?
This is a text messaging detail report.
Okay. Doesn't appear that there are any text messages to report.
That's correct.
Okay. Hold on one moment.
Next one. Yeah, let me go back.
Sure. I don't have any other questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Riley?
Good morning, Ms. Tomalin. My name is Scott Riley. You can't see my co-counsel, Attorney Joe Gorman, but we represent Stanley Ford. I have just a couple very quick questions for you, all right? The information that you testified to obviously was as a result of a subpoena that was given to you by the Summit County Prosecutor's Office, correct?
Correct.
And that subpoena only requested you to provide information as it relates to the 2 phone numbers that you've testified to, correct?
Correct.
You were not given any request to search for any subscriber names, correct?
Part of the, in the request for subscriber information, it produces subscriber information and names.
Right. But what you were provided was a phone number, 330-221-1930, correct?
Correct.
And you were asked for subscriber information as it relates to that phone number, correct?
Correct.
And I believe the document that you referred to briefly a moment ago to the subscriber for that particular phone number was Tracy Evans, correct?
I believe so.
All right. But my question is, you weren't provided or any requests to provide all records associated with a particular name, such as Tracy Evans, correct?
No, correct. We were not provided a name.
All right. Both phone numbers that you testified to, both the 221-1930 as well as 330-842-2833, showed activation through Verizon from May 1st through May 11th of 2017, correct?
I don't know what you mean by activation.
Well, the only dates that I saw on the spreadsheet that you testified to were May 1st through May 11th of 2017. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
You have no records for anything associated with those 2 phone numbers on May 15th of 2017, correct?
Correct.
All right. I think I'm done, but hold on for 1 second, okay?
Thank you.
Ms. Tomlin, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. D'Angelo? Mr. D'Angelo, be direct.
I have no other questions, Judge.
Go ahead and excuse your witness.
Thank you. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. You as well. Thank you.
All right, call your next witness.
We call Troy Lane.
Detective, come on up. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead and have a seat. You've heard my instructions to everybody previously. Once you're seated, remove your mask, keep your voice up, and please speak into the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sir, although the jury probably knows who you are, go ahead and state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Troy Lamont Looney, Looney.
And sir, how are you employed?
City of Akron Police Department,
How long have you been with the Akron Police Department?
29, almost 29 years in December.
And in order to be an Akron police officer, we've heard testimony that you have to go through OPATA training
Yes.
and be OPATA certified.
Yes.
And did you do that?
Yes, I did.
And have you been duly certified in the state of Ohio your entire career,
Yes, I have.
including and up into today? As a Akron police officer, tell us just briefly about your career. Where did you start?
Okay, I was hired in 1992 with the Akron Police Department. I served 20 years in patrol uniform and went to DB in 2013 and crimes against persons.
All right.
And currently financial crimes right now.
All right. And when you went to crimes against persons, what, I guess, shift would you have been working?
I was working the midnight DB shift, 10:30 p.m. to 7 a.m.
All right. And that was for how long?
8.5 years.
All right. So it would have been 2012 to somewhere in 2020?
2013 to early part of this year, actually, 2021.
Okay. And you moved from persons to financial crimes because of what?
It was a nice position.
All right.
Transition.
You worked for 8.5 years or so from nighttime.
That's correct.
Your current assignment is what shift?
8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay. Sir, now you also have, do you have any educational degrees?
Yes, I do. I have several degrees up to a PhD.
All right. And have you acquired those while you were a police officer?
That's correct.
Okay. Before I forget, you heard the testimony of the last witnesses from AT&T, correct?
Correct.
And you heard, you also heard the cross-examination of those witnesses?
Yes.
And the question was regarding the records going only till May 11th of 2017. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Were you involved as the lead detective in requesting the time frames of the records you wanted?
Yes.
And the time frame that you requested, was it greater than May 11th?
Yes, it's always requested for complete up to present.
All right. And so if the records only go to May 11th, what does that mean then?
That's all that was available.
All right. Also, you heard on the cross-examination about the request of records for a specific person by the name of Paul Boggs. Did you hear that?
Patrick Boggs.
Excuse me, Patrick Boggs.
That's correct.
And when were you involved in the requesting of these records?
Yes.
Why would you request it by numbers, by the phone numbers, as opposed to the person's name?
Sometimes records are listed to another subscriber or a person that pays for the account.
All right. And did you find out information through your investigation as to what number was associated with Paul Boggs?
Yes, I did.
And yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep saying Paul. Patrick Boggs. And what did you learn through that investigation?
During the investigation, we spoke with Mr. Boggs' sister. She advised us that she...
Overruled. You may answer.
Okay. We were advised that the account phone number for Mr. Boggs was under her name, Daisia Huggins.
All right. And what type of phone was that?
I don't recall this time.
Do you know, and I don't mean the make and model, I mean, was it a prepaid phone or was it a subscription phone?
No, I don't have that information from me.
That's fine. And so had you requested the information regarding a Patrick Boggs, given that name, you would you have gotten the records of this phone?
It depends if there were other numbers associated
right.
during the communication process
All right.
with that phone as well.
But these records you would not have gotten.
Possibly not possible.
Yeah, sustained.
All right.
Open-ended questions.
If you had asked for subscriber information for Patrick Boggs, would you have gotten this phone number?
Possibly not.
And why not?
Because we requested specifically for a name instead of a number.
And was Patrick Boggs' name associated with this number and account or not?
Only by interviewing the witnesses and then telling us that he uses that phone.
Okay.
And another witness informed us.
Overruled. You may answer. It's not going to the truth. It's going to the effect on him. Overruled. You may answer.
Okay. Another witness also informed us that was the number they had for Mr. Boggs.
All right. And that's what led you to request those numbers?
That's correct.
Overruled. Go ahead.
That's correct.
All right, so let's get kind of back onto your involvement in this case, okay?
Okay.
In 2016, when the fire happened at 719 Fultz, where were you assigned?
The same unit, Midnight DB.
All right, and was Tanisha Stewart also assigned there with you?
That's correct, yes.
And how is it that a case is assigned in your unit?
Cases are assigned by the supervisors, depends upon who's working or who's called in to assist.
All right. And so on that particular case, Tanisha Stewart got assigned that case of 719 fire, correct?
Yes, her and Sergeant Lickey at the time, now Lieutenant.
All right. And were you involved at all in that investigation?
Yes.
And tell us to what degree you were involved.
Initially, we were assisting Detective Stewart and Sergeant Lickey with their investigation. We did some follow-up in terms of what to aid and arrest, other elements, other interviews associated, other canvases associated, and also subsequently after the second fire, did follow-up for the 2016 fire as well.
All right. But initially in the 719 fire, you were there to assist Tanisha Stewart.
That's correct.
All right. Obviously, you were aware as being in the unit that no arrest was made at that time.
That's correct.
Moving forward now to May of 2017, you became aware that there was a fire again on Fultz, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Who and how did you? Who was assigned?
Initially, we all responded. At that time, Lieutenant Beitzel, Sergeant Lickey assigned myself and Ron Gary as lead detectives.
Okay. And as lead detective, what would be your first, I guess, instinct or duties when you first get the case?
Initially, we are called to the scene by Uniform Patrol. We then meet there to get an overall assessment of what happened, who's involved, how many victims were potentially in the house, and how many witnesses or other evidence elements that we have to consider, including canvas, physical evidence, forensics, and so forth.
All right. So in a case like this, you show up at the scene and you've got a house that was on fire and you've got 7 people dead. Where do you begin to figure out, well, who did this?
Initially, again, arriving to the scene, the canvas is important. Also, the canvas done preliminary by patrol and other detectives that may have been there, other agencies as well, such as Akron Fire, Fire Marshals was called in. So we collaborate and we consider interviewing, finding evidence, finding leads, finding out what happened.
All right. And as far as that goes, what's one of the first things that you would do in regards to the victims?
We were trying to first identify how many parties lived at the house, how many people were potentially there and or pets, and what happened, their background story, their names, ages, and so forth.
Now you mentioned background story. Why is that important?
It's important to always consider what happened, what that day was like prior to and subsequently before that happened, leading up to the cause and event.
All right. And that background, does that sometimes lead you to suspects?
Absolutely.
Okay. In this case, did you get some background information on this family?
Yes, I did.
And what background information did you have?
Interviewing the neighbors and the witnesses, we spoke with Tiffany Gary. We were advised that there were kids and adults living at the house. Her son was aware of the names and approximate ages of the children. And there was a mention of another sibling there, Brittany Boggs.
All right. Was Brittany ultimately determined to be there or not there?
She was not there. She was located away at Cedar Point on work or training program.
And as far as the adults in that house, do you then look at their background to see if there's anything there that would maybe help you in your investigation?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And in this particular case, was there anything of interest that you found out?
Yes, there were several things.
What were they?
Angela Boggs had been the victim of an assault and a serious assault in the past, and there was a ex-husband that was involved with that incident.
And what was that person's name?
Patrick Boggs.
And so, I guess in your experience as a detective, an ex-husband, would that raise your suspicions, especially with the information you just told us about?
Not necessarily that it's an ex-husband, but the actions that were taken and the results, based specifically in this case, what we learned.
All right. And you, in fact, learned about what he did to her. Is that true?
Yes.
And what is it that you found out he had done?
Mr. Boggs had previously attempted to set Angela Boggs on fire and had done prison time for that. He was actually incarcerated.
And for, do you know how long?
I believe about 12 years.
Okay. That clearly would pique your interest, right?
Yes.
And so did you consider him a suspect at that point in time?
Yes, we did.
All right. And were efforts taken to, I guess, investigate Mr. Boggs as a potential culprit for lighting this fire?
Yes.
What efforts did you take in that regard?
We initially interviewed Mr. Boggs. We interviewed family members of Mr. Boggs, anyone involved with Angela Boggs as well, co-workers, again, neighbors, friends, family, and we looked at the actual previous case involved with Mr. Boggs. We talked with several other investigators out of that jurisdiction. We actually pulled the entire case file and conducted search warrants in addition to that of phone records, video information, a multitude of elements, everything involved with that case.
Okay. As an investigator or a human, when you found out that the victim of this fire was the victim of her ex-husband attempting to or threatening to set her on fire on a prior occasion, what was your reaction?
We need to look into that immediately.
All right. And would it be, how would you describe the likelihood in your mind that he was going to be the guy that did it?
Overall, you may answer.
It raised our suspicions very, very highly.
All right. I mean, how often does that happen in your investigation where you have such background?
It just depends on the case details and case facts. Every case is actually different, so no two are alike. There may be similarities or comparisons, but that stood out, obviously, for obvious reasons with the incident that occurred.
All right. So you told us that you had interviewed individuals, you got search warrants,
That's correct.
and were you present for those search warrants?
Yes, I was.
And you helped direct what to collect and what not to collect?
In association with the state fire marshals, I assisted, and it was a collaborative effort.
All right. And did you interview Mr. Boggs?
Yes, we did, on multiple occasions.
Okay. And you also were able to, you said you already talked about the fact that you were the one who was involved in requesting cell phone records.
Yes.
What was the point of getting the cell phone records?
The cell phone records are for multiple reasons. Obviously, numbers dialed, messages, communication, and cell tower information for triangulation or location of that movement of that device.
All right. Were you aware or not of Mr. Stanley Ford being a suspect in the first fire at 719 Fulton?
Yes, there was mention by witnesses through interview.
And I'm talking about in the first, before this fire, were you aware that he was a suspect when Tanisha was investigating?
Yes.
Okay. And in regards to that, was he then in any way a suspect for you when this fire happened?
Yes.
Okay. In regards to Mr. Boggs' cell phone records, did you have the opportunity to review them and look into them to see if there was anything of value or relevance to your investigation?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you find?
You may. Overruled. You may proceed, Mr. Lindsay.
Detective, so let's clarify the records that we got. You got AT&T and Verizon records, correct?
Yes.
And some of those records end at some point on the 11th.
That's correct.
All right. So as far as those records go, you had requested for the full period of time,
Absolutely, yes.
and you don't know why those records end on the 11th,
No, I have no idea.
but we have what we have.
Yes.
Okay. So were they of any value to you for the May 15th?
Yes.
Why were they of value for that case?
The records can potentially establish movement, mobility, location of cell tower, message information, present or not, and other options.
Now I'm referring to the ones that end on May 11th.
Yes.
So on May 15th, when the fire took place, we don't have that information. Is that fair?
That's fair, yes.
Okay, so those records that ended on May 11th, even though you requested more, they don't help you determine all those things you just talked about, do they?
Potentially, depends if there's communication prior to the 15th.
Okay. But as far as those records go, there was nothing in there that you felt, was there anything in there that you felt helped you in your investigation of this fire?
No.
All right. So now moving to the other records that did cover the 15th, or at least we had information from the 15th, did those help you in any way?
Yes.
How did they help you?
Again, we requested the phone information and the cell tower information for location, longitude of the movement of that device or those devices associated.
All right. And as far as that goes, were you able to determine what cell towers and where those cell towers were located that this phone you requested were, I guess, using or bouncing off of?
Objection.
Overruled.
Yes.
And where was that cell tower located?
Overruled.
I don't have that actual information in front of me.
Okay. Where was Mr. Boggs living at the time?
In Ravenna, Ohio.
And do you recall his location?
I believe 645 Hazen
And is that an apartment or is it a house?
apartment complex.
Okay. And in that apartment complex, that's where you executed the search warrant?
Yes.
Were you aware of a vehicle that Mr. Boggs had or used?
Yes.
What type of vehicle was that?
I believe it was a Dodge Ram.
Okay. And did you do any or take any efforts to see or look into whether that car was used on May 15th in the fire at 693 Falls?
Yes, we looked at video, looked at the actual vehicle as well during the search warrant, and it was determined that vehicle hadn't moved by based on watching the video during that duration.
During the period of time that the fire would have been set?
That's correct.
Okay. Was there a time where the cell tower location that this phone was using or pinging off of changed?
Yes.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
And did you look into that, why that would have happened?
Yes, we were looking to investigate whether that cell tower had pinged off of a location in Akron or near the location of the fire.
And the location that it moved to, was it in that location near the fire or anywhere in Akron?
Objection.
Overruled. You may answer.
No.
And was there some information that you received about Mr. Boggs' movements that night.
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you attempt to ascertain if Mr. Boggs moved or not that night?
Yes.
And based on your investigation, did you learn where he may have gone?
Yes.
Where would that have been?
Objection.
Overruled. You may answer.
Upon interviewing he and his girlfriend or significant other he lived with, Lena Smith, there's a mention of a visit to Walmart and potentially Streetsboro, Ohio.
In regards to the cell phone towers that you said it changed from the location near his apartment to a different location, is that correct?
Yes.
Where was that tower located near?
I believe Streetsboro or near Walmart. He mentioned Kent, Ohio.
Sustained as to that, I think it was Custodian. Non-responsive.
All right. During your investigation now, you obviously indicated that you recall Mr. Ford being a suspect in the first fire, correct?
Correct.
So were efforts then made in regards to investigating Mr. Ford for a potential culprit of this fire?
Yes.
So tell us how that started.
Again, we initiated contact with Mr. Ford and his wife at his residence. And again, we also conducted search warrants, video surveillance from the surrounding locations, any other evidence that was obtained.
All right, and when would you have first made contact with Mr. Ford?
Actually, it would have been the date of the fire. There were officers that made contact at that location. Myself and Detective Gary, went to Mr. Ford's residence on the 17th to speak with him at that time.
Joe Gorman. I'm just going to let you know I'm going to play that interview.
Okay, you may proceed, Mr. LaPrinzi.
Detective Looney, I'm going to start this recording and ask you if you recognize this recording, okay?
Okay.
And we can have a lot of problems with security. Well, I'm always home.
Oh, I'm sorry. And this would be exhibit number 161, I'm sorry.
On the police, yeah, I got people parked like you.
Do you recognize that?
Yes.
First of all, whose voice is that?
I heard Mr. Ford's voice.
All right.
But my own, I think.
All right. And does this, is this the recording of that first, or the beginning of the recording of your first encounter with Mr. Ford regarding this case?
Yes.
Here, like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning.
We understand that.
Yeah, we
And whose voice was that second one?
My voice.
Okay.
having all kind of problems. You got guys up here walking with black clothes on. Seriously, man, it is crazy up here now. Yeah, one guy tried to walk at her house at 4 a.m. in the morning.
You guys don't have any cameras that face that way, do you guys?
And that's a third voice. Whose voice would that be?
Detective Ron Gary.
All right. Was there anybody else present at that time?
Yes. Yes.
Who else was present?
Mr. Ford's wife, Zanita Ford.
All right. And Your Honor, let me just. And Your Honor, for purposes of this exhibit, I just wanted to verify, we have edited this and discussed with counsel that her portion of the tape has been redacted, so there may be some redactions in there for that purpose.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I've previously ruled what is and isn't admissible, and therefore the redactions are at my order. So you're not to assume anything. You may hear a pause or something like that. It's not as if We're trying to hide anything from you. It's just based on some legal decisions that I've made regarding what is admissible.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge.
No, we gonna get some. We gonna hard afraid to get some. Cause it's getting crazy up here. Yeah, we definitely gonna get some. She been telling me to get some of the money, and her money is kind of like, right. You know.
Well, is that a problem coming down, or?
Yeah, we have kids, we don't have anybody that wants to.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, well,
It's kind of hard because, you know, all my family, they got kids. And, you know, I continue my life, I got kids. And I got to go to school, she got to work.
okay. All right, we'll do it. We'll stay with that, I'm gonna talk to you or schedule another time.
Judge, can we approach for a second?
Yes.
Appreciate
You're
indulgence.
welcome. Sure. You may proceed.
Because it's just easier down there, because we can print things off. We got computer systems and.
I'm just telling you right now what's going on there. It's just the whole, after my mom, man, after like the older generation died, the whole neighborhood just changed.
Okay, let me get an official statement. Mr. Detective, when that is 990, times 9:52 p.m., 5/17/2017. Where this is 1370 Hillcrest. This is Avenue or Street?
Street.
Street, okay. And your name is Stanley Ford, what's your middle initial?
It's old.
Oh, okay, and what's your birthday, sir?
It's 4/8/1959.
Okay, your social?
Oh, you won't be counting that.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
What's a good phone number for you?
Oh, that's 330 landline. Landline 330-258-1160.
Is it a landline or is it a
Just a landline.
Is it a cell phone also?
Yeah, my wife did. I gave her also some of that number. It's 330-310-2462.
Okay. And how long have you resided here?
Oh, I've been up here 30, going on 40 years.
Okay.
In this house?
Well, my mom next door, she passed in 2008, so I was living
Sorry
there.
for that.
Yeah, 1374.
Yeah, I was taking care of her, and she passed over there in 2008, November.
Sorry for that. What's your name, please?
Zenita, Z-E-N-E-T-A.
Okay.
She just identified herself in that. I would go.
Judge, in abundance of caution, I'm going to move that from 2:30 to 3 minutes on the video.
All righty.
No,
Either not stay here with you?
No.
Occasionally?
no.
And Detective, I don't know if it was clear there, what were you asking him about people staying there?
Could you repeat that portion? It was kind of hard to hear.
No,
Occasionally?
no,
Okay.
Other kids?
yeah,
Any other adults come?
no,
Either not stay here with you?
No.
Occasionally?
no.
Okay.
Did you hear at that time?
Yes.
All right, so what were you guys trying to determine in that question?
Who else may live in the house, if anyone at all, besides Mr. Ford, his wife, and 2 children?
All right.
Okay. I guess what's the best time when you can stop down? I know that you can make arrangements.
I don't even know. I guess so. Yeah, it's conspicuous. It's crazy, man. We, you know, kids, they one dance, one do praise dance, singing in the choir. Just
Okay.
we stay pretty busy with the kids.
If you were, could you like bring them with you? And we only need about less than an hour. We got conference room, we got chips and apples and water, pop, Cavs games on, everything.
What's going on downtown?
It's easier for us to talk, so our paperwork and stuff's there. Like I said, we're going to show you some photos and everything.
Oh, photos.
Very good. Part of what
Well,
we're
look at
looking
video that
into.
we'd like to show you.
Yeah.
We can't show them to you here.
Yeah.
Actually,
This is much easier, so that's where we came out to. Not just call in.
we really do need you to come down.
Yeah.
Okay. If not today, we need to do it soon.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't trust you guys, man. I just like.
That's why security, yeah, right. Nothing much more secure than downtown police station.
Oh, I already know.
You see the office with us.
Oh,
talk to you now, so you
Oh, okay.
photo records.
That's good. I'm here though.
Well, it doesn't take care, you know, can't
Yeah,
really.
my photo already got the house.
Well, we just, you know, thought we'd give you a courtesy call, I mean, stop by and talk with you.
She consulted me, but I just told her that.
Were you awake also?
All right, so at this point, this first encounter with Mr. Ford, it sounds like, are you attempting to have him come to, you say come down, where are you talking about?
The police station.
All right, so you want to do an interview with him at the station?
Yes.
Right there at the end of that tape, you indicated, and you're trying to encourage him to come. How did you leave this ultimate interview?
Ultimately, we decided we come back within the hour, give them a chance to make arrangements or discuss coming down.
All right, and so you left them alone at that point in time, Mr. Ford and his wife?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, just for the record, I'm ending this recording at 5:02. Did you then go back that same day of May 17th to talk to Mr. Ford?
Yes, we did.
All right. This is State's Exhibit number 162. I'm going to ask you if you recognize this.
Right.
Mr. Ford, we're not gonna interview you guys either. That's not gonna.
Oh,
All right, so do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
All right, first of all, I guess I'm not sure if I made it clear. Where was that first interview?
The first interview was at 1370 Hillcrest. We were inside the kitchen area, inside the hall.
And you knocked and he let you in?
Yes,
Okay. And on this second time you go back, how long after the first one was it?
about an hour.
Okay. And so you went back, did you knock on the door?
Yes, we did, the
And
side door.
so tell us what happened.
Mr. Ford came outside and spoke with us right outside the door there.
Okay. And this is that conversation?
Yes.
Yeah, we still wouldn't, even if mom came down and,
I told
you
her.
want to mention that to her?
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, if she agree with it, it's okay because there's another objection to trying to hide.
Right.
Yes, your objection's noted and overruled. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Tomlin.
Fine. Oh, yeah.
No, but it's not an apartment. What happened was, it's my mom and this lady, and the lady used to live here. Everybody that died, Mrs. McGinnis, they used to sit out here. They the one that had the neighborhood watch.
Okay.
Some guys came and stole the neighborhood watch sign and put them in their house on the other part of the west side,
Okay.
on their porch. They just took it there. They used to have all that neighborhood watch. And like I said, the old generation left, everything just crumbled.
You want to ask her real quick while I'm standing here, and
Actually, what?
if she can stay with the kids, and then we'll talk with you and get you back here?
Oh, she not gonna do that. She trust me, I know her. She won't do that. Oh, and it's okay too, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
That's love, man. You know,
Okay, we'll be back in
you
touch.
married?
Absolutely.
See, that's love. You guys married?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's love, man.
We'll be back in touch in the morning, then. How about that? You'll be here in the morning?
Well, I'll be here in the morning. I don't
Okay.
know what time in the morning.
We got all night and all morning, so I mean, we're flexible.
Yeah, I don't have time like that.
So we're working, so.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can understand the seriousness nature of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I'm gonna try.
So this takes precedence over everything.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, so.
No doubt.
All
Yeah.
right, Frank. We appreciate your time. We'll call you in the morning.
Oh,
Yeah,
Frank, I'm staying, man.
Stanley.
I'm staying, man. Staying. Yeah, that's Frank.
I talked to Frank earlier today.
Who's Frank?
Frank, what I know, witness.
Oh, I don't know Frank. See, I don't.
No, the only one here, was a family, witness family.
Oh, listen, I try not to get too involved with the neighbors up here.
Well, why don't we do this then? We're gonna take off, okay? We talk with her and we can maybe step back and call you within the hour. Give you a chance to talk with her. I know it's kind of hard right now. We're outside the door. You know, we'll just either call you back or something like that. We're gonna take off, okay?
Oh, okay. We can work it out.
All right. We'll
I
be
think I
back.
got somebody here knocking at me.
You'll be there. That was us on the side. We don't know which door to come to.
I'm so late though.
We work night shift. We work midnights.
Oh, you got one?
We're midnight detectives. We might have been early. I'm not sure. It might have been me or somebody. We were talking to everybody, but we work midnight shift.
Yeah.
So we've been out since 1:30 this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
But you know, we work around the clock. So,
Okay.
but we'll be back. Give you a chance to talk to your wife, and we'll be back within
All
an
right.
hour.
All right.
Fair enough?
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, about an hour. All right, sir.
All right.
All right, Mr. Ford. Thanks.
So Detective, approximately what time of the day was this?
Roughly 9:52, 10:52 p.m.
Okay. So you said you were going to come back when?
We mentioned an hour, but we also mentioned in the morning.
Okay. So, again, why were you going to do that? Come back again?
We wanted to talk with Mr. Ford to see if they had made arrangements to come downtown.
All right. And so did you go back again?
Yes, we did.
And when was that?
The next day.
And that would have been the 18th?
That's correct.
And on the 18th, was there something else going on that day?
Yes, there was.
What was that?
We initiated, during our investigation, things had evolved, and we actually initiated a search warrant at the residence there, and subsequently had an interview with Mr. Ford.
Okay. And we've had lots of testimony in this case so far, and obviously it became clear that there's video regarding this incident, correct?
That's correct.
And so when you say lots of things have happened, was that one of the things that you were talking about?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And you had an opportunity to view that video, or some of it at least, during that period of time?
Yes.
I'm going to play you State's Exhibit number 163, and I'm going to ask you if you recognize this.
Hold on.
How you doing,
Hold
sir?
on.
When you come
Hold
back?
on.
I'm sorry, I was trying to pause.
Mr. Gordon.
Judge, I renew my prior motion and my prior objections in second.
Noted and overruled. You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge.
How do we?
No, I ain't coming out. It's
Oh.
late.
Okay, so do you recognize this?
Yes.
And is this that third encounter with Mr. Ford that you had?
Yes.
Okay. And who was with you on this interview? Do you recall?
This was the car interview, I believe.
This is the third on the 18th before the car interview?
Were you coming out or were you?
No, I ain't coming out. It's
Oh.
late.
Okay, when can you come talk to us, Mr. Ford?
I don't know. We can call and get back with you guys, man.
Can you come in the morning or?
I try. I do what I can.
Okay.
Do you recall this?
Yes.
All right, so what is this?
This is when we came back to the location, to his residence an hour later.
Okay, so that would have probably been, would that have been after midnight?
Just right before.
Okay. So this would still been on the 17th then?
Yes.
What's a good time to check back in the morning?
I don't know. I'll give you guys a call. Is that okay?
At what time? 'Cause I'll be,
I don't have the time to give you a call. I'll try to give you guys a call.
how about I just I'll call you in the morning, we actually have our, another investigator here with us as well.
That's fine. I'm tired.
I understand, trust me, I'm tired too. You know, we've been out since 1:30
Okay.
in the afternoon, so,
I start my day off like 5, 6 in the morning.
okay. So what's a good time?
I don't have to do that.
Okay.
You got this call, see?
Well, we told you we were coming back in an hour, so.
What you gonna call it out?
Yes, I'll still be coming back. Okay. Well, yeah, there was some miscommunication there, but we're back, so. All right, well, sooner the better, so.
Well, I feel like I'm being pursued like I'm a suspect, and I really don't like that, actually.
No, we never said you were a suspect, we just,
I feel like that. I mean, this is never right, man.
we called for an escort so that you knew it's definitely police. There's undeniable being that we're police. Yeah, it's undeniable that it's the police. We don't want you to misconstrue us for anybody else. Yeah.
Mr. Ford, you're one of the last witnesses we need to talk to. My lieutenant said, get your ass back out there, bring him down to the station.
Break me down.
You, because we need to finish up all our interviews, you're one of the last guys we talk to.
Where you talk to me? I mean, where do I need to go to the station for? That's where I'm
Well, like I
confused.
explained to you before, that I need to show you some photo arrays, and I need to show you
Well,
what
can we meet somewhere else?
You want to talk to him also? Okay.
Besides the police, this is really important to try to conclude this. Yeah, I don't have very, very important. I don't have a problem with that, but is there anywhere else I can go besides the police department? Is that good? We got everything.
That's where our office, that's where our office is.
This is part of what we do. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I understand. We got very serious incident happen around here. Oh, I understand.
Yeah, it's not like it's a simple car break-in, it's very serious.
Well, Yeah, but you don't need to gangster for a week, like you know, that's not the deal. Right. Gangster. Okay, well you say you're gonna call. I would accept that.
Well, I said I was coming back, maybe you misunderstood.
Why you got to get up and go to work, all that stuff, man. Kids got to go to school.
Right, that's separate from you, right? We can talk to her another time.
I think my kids school.
Okay, well, I'll get back with you.
Yeah, get them up. I feel them breakfast. Yeah.
Okay.
What time of school starts tomorrow morning?
Well, one has to be there at 8. Other got to be at 8:25.
Okay.
All right, so around 9 o'clock? What's wrong with that time?
I understand that, but I have a life too. Yeah, listen, I'm not pressing you guys off or anything like that, but
Blow me up.
I'm not blowing you off. I'm blowing you off.
Well, we're trying to get a time that's convenient for you, so if you tell us 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning.
But I'm trying to, what makes me so important? I can hear everybody else.
You actually called 911.
Yeah, we did. And
Right.
they responded too.
Right, and we talked with them also.
But they came down and said,
Yeah, we talked with them too.
oh, okay. All right.
Like I said, you're the last one.
I'm the last one to stay.
One of the last ones.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
The only other witness that.
We got a couple more people obviously to talk to.
Called us from North Carolina, thought he knew something about it.
Oh,
He
okay.
didn't come out station, obviously.
Yeah, but we in North Carolina, right? That's nice weather, yeah.
All right.
That's where they're here.
Well, sir, we're gonna be in touch.
Oh, I turned the light on so you can see a little bit better.
Well, we appreciate that.
Tomorrow?
I don't know how much they gonna go. And I just be running all day, pay bills, I just, you do a lot, man, you just do a lot, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we can't let this go, so we appreciate it. I thought I'd come back out and talk to you
Oh, no.
and see if you had a chance to talk with your wife, like we said you did a chance to talk to her.
I did.
We could have been down and back by now.
Yeah, but she don't tell you what she said. She don't want to go down there and that's too separated. She disagreed with that. I'm gonna tell you in front right now to you, but she disagreed with the separation.
Okay.
Well, I just said that. You told me.
She can come with you.
But you told me have to be separated. That's how y'all conduct business.
She can come with you, but there's separate rooms that we have. We give people individually,
She
so.
disagreed with that part. That's the part
Okay.
she disagreed with.
All right, well, we'll be in touch, okay?
All right.
Detective Looney, states exhibit numbers 161, 162, and 163, the portions that we played, do they accurately reflect the conversations you had with Mr. Ford that day?
Yes.
Going back to earlier in, strike that. Do you see the person that you talked to on that occasion that we heard on the video, on the tape recordings that you refer to as Stanley Ford? Do you see him in court today?
Yes, I do.
Could you please point him out and describe what he's wearing?
Mr. Ford's here alongside his counsel. White striped shirt, I can't see his pants, white face mask, braided hair.
Your Honor, we'd ask that the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
The record so reflects.
The day after this interview, did you have an occasion to see Mr. Ford again?
Yes,
What day was that?
the 18th,
Okay.
May 18th.
And about what time of the day would that have been?
I believe it was early morning, just before noon.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I've marked as State's Exhibit number 160. And before I show it to you, on that particular day, did Mr. Ford's appearance, was it the same as it is here today?
No, it was not. It was different.
I'm showing you State's 160.
Okay?
And do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Who's in that photograph?
Mr. Ford, an officer, and myself.
Okay. And does this accurately represent how you and Mr. Ford looked that day?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I
You may have to change over to the document.
Yeah. Okay, is that states 160 that I just showed you?
Yes.
All right, and so that we're clear, because we obviously know that you were identified earlier in this trial as Mr. Ford, which one are you?
I'm on the far right. I have my badge on, you can't see it, but I'm to the right of the officer,
And to the left is who?
Mr. Ford.
Okay. And it looks like in this photograph that his head and your head are both clean shaven. Is that fair?
That's correct.
On the day of the 18th, you executed a search warrant on that day,
Yes.
and you said it was sometime before noon.
Yes, it was.
Were you involved in the execution of that search warrant?
Yes.
All right. Now, were you actually there and present during the whole execution when the collection of the different items?
I was present on the street, but I was also conducting an interview with Mr. Ford inside my DB car.
All right. So earlier you testified that with Mr. Boggs, there was a search warrant that was executed in collaboration with the fire marshal and other individuals, correct?
That's correct.
And is that the same that happened in this case?
That's correct. That's correct, yes.
All right. So at that point in time, did you have an opportunity to talk to Mr. Ford again?
Yes.
And where did that take place?
That was inside, actually we were parked on Hillcrest Street on the left side of the road, and we talked inside my DB car.
Okay. And when you arrived there for that search warrant, do you recall where Mr. Ford was?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
We actually had initiated the execution of the search warrant, and we were outside of 1370 Hillcrest. Mr. Ford, we were knocking on the door of 1370. Mr. Ford came out from 1374 Hillcrest.
All right. And during your investigation, you learned a little bit about 1370 and 1374, correct?
Yes, correct.
During the initial fire, 1370, were you aware who lived at that home?
Yes.
Who lived there?
1370, Mr. Ford, his wife, and 2 children.
Okay. And in 2016, the 719 Fultz fire, the 1374 address, was that known to you as anything of significance?
I believe that was his mother's residence.
All right. Upon watching the videos, or in any way, did that become more significant to you in this investigation?
Yes.
I'm talking about 1374.
Yes, it did.
Okay, and why was that?
Watching the videos and during the investigation, we learned that the individual on the video had been traveling to and from that location. Also, there were alarms that were activated, deactivated, and there was multiple traffic motion to and from both residences and the area of the fire.
And in 2016, was the alarm in that house known to APD?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay. And then did you request alarm information from alarm.com?
Yes, I did.
And you heard the testimony about that. Was that the information that you received in regards to this case?
That's correct.
At the time of the interview with Mr. Ford, had you had an opportunity to review every second of all the video?
Not every second, but the pertinent elements concerning the actual times and the timeline associated.
All right. And also the alarm.com records that you received, did you have all those records at the time you interviewed him?
I believe it's some of the records.
All right. And do you recall approximately what time you interviewed Mr. Ford that day?
Yes, 12:06 p.m. May 18th.
And I'm going to play you the beginning of State's Exhibit number 164.
Judge, can I redo my motion and objections at this time as well?
You may. It's noted and overruled based on my previous rulings.
And you tell me if you recognize it, okay?
Okay.
Oh, hold on a second. I think I got to go back to the computer.
Oh, man.
Okay, so let's go ahead so we can get this official statement. It's Protect the Loan. ID is 990. It is 12:06 p.m. Thursday, May 18th.
So it says 12:06 p.m.
Yes,
All right, what time did you tell us?
12:06 p.m.
Okay, I thought I said it was a.m. and I was confused, so it was p.m.
That's correct.
Okay,
PM.
and then, so do you recognize this, State's Exhibit 164?
Yes, I do.
And does this appear to be, or seem to be the interview on that day?
Yes.
Okay, and that was your voice, did we also hear Mr. Ford's voice?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and at the very beginning, there was another voice too. I think in the very first voice we heard, did you hear that?
I'm not sure if I heard the other voice, but I know who was present.
Who was present?
Detective John Bell.
Okay, now when you said he was present, where was he?
He was standing outside of the vehicle, subsequently walked Mr. Ford over to my DV car, and was still assisting with the search warrant.
Okay, and during the majority of this interview, is he in the car with you or not?
No, it's myself and Mr. Ford.
Okay.
2017. I'm actually in the DB car at Hillcrest on Fultz Street. So I need you to state your name for me.
Stanley Ford.
Mr. Ford, no initials, no, correct?
No.
Mr. Ford, what's your birthday?
4859.
4859?
Yeah.
Your social security number?
You get it.
Actually, you already have it, but you can stay on, it's 277.
Yeah, you already got it, man.
Okay. This is your home address here, 1370 Hillcrest Street. And the good phone number again, please?
330-258-1160.
258-1160. No. Okay, do you have a cell phone?
I don't have one, my wife will.
Okay. All right, so I understand that you reside here, your wife's in Lindell Ford, and your two children?
And what?
Your two children will live here with you?
Yeah.
Anybody else stay here?
No.
Okay, what are your kids' names, son?
Zaria, Z-R-I-A.
Okay.
Sky, S-K-Y-E.
And Zaria's how old?
10.
And Sky is 4?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, basically, I'm going to read you everybody that we talk to are reading their Miranda rights. And the reason I do that, you're not in trouble. The reason I do that is a standard practice that I do. But let me finish, and then I'll answer your questions. It's a standard practice that we do. And the reason I do that, so whether it was here or downtown, I want to make sure I'm consistent with what my practice is, and then I need you to say yes or no after I read each one, okay? And if you don't understand, I'll be happy to explain it, okay? I need you to say yes or no. All right, you have the right to remain silent, understand that? No. Okay, anything you say, can you?
Back the truck up a couple minutes.
Yeah.
No. Can I back my own truck up? No, we don't back it up. We need to back it up. I can do it. We need to do it.
Yeah, we have to,
Why y'all need to do it? We just gotta get.
Okay, let me start over, okay? I want to make sure it's clear.
Man, before you do that, this is wrong, man.
Well, let me do it and we'll talk about it.
If I would've did you
Let
like that, man.
me do this and then we'll talk.
To my kids.
I'm not trying to embarrass you. Let me read your rights to you, then we'll talk. You have a right to remain silent, you understand that? Anything you say can and will be against you in a court of law, you understand that? You have the right to talk to a lawyer, have him or her present with you, or have any question, you understand that? If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any question if you wish, you understand that? You can decide to exercise these rights at any time and not answer any questions or make any statements, you understand that? Okay. All right, let's talk free. So,
Before we continue on with that, he mentioned that he lived at 1370 Hillcrest and who he lived there with.
Yes.
And you had told us about 1374 and that you learned that there were alarm records for 1374.
Yes.
Did you also attempt to find out whether there was alarm records for 1370?
I did, yes.
And were there any alarm records that you were able to find?
There were no records provided by the company for 1370.
what if I'm not president? You have a right, but I would love to talk to you. But I mean, that's your choice, so. Well, we have some things. You can't try to put me in jail. No, listen what I'm saying. This is so wrong. Listen what I'm saying. It's embarrassing to my neighbor. Listen what I'm saying. Okay, go ahead, man. Listen what I'm saying. Just look over that line. We have some things that we have to clear up, and we have some things that we need your help with. Speak up. Okay? So, being that we come out, I came out loud, I didn't even call. So, be very personal. See my face. What are you doing? Shake your hand. Mr. Ford still like Mr. Ford. Right. You know, and you call me Troy, whatever you want, I've come to protect it. And what I'm saying to you is, we do our job very thoroughly. I've been doing this 25 years. Oh, I commend you for that, man. Maybe everybody can vouch for it. I work. I see him around sometimes. Yeah, so, too for his work. I've learned a lot from this man. Yeah, I've learned a lot from him. When I first came to DB, first thing I said to him was, he's like, what you think? He's like, he told me, give me some advice. I followed the tip since that. It's been 4.5 years. Right. I'm very good at what I do. Just like he is. I'm sure you are in your profession. What I'm saying to you is this. I just want to talk to you. Okay, now, it's here or there. Here we are right now. Sometimes we have to go that route and get search warrants. We go the legal route with the courts and everything. So here we are. Let's talk about, I understand that your wife called 911. We appreciate that. I'm sure, go ahead, you appreciate it. I mean, I have a regret and I don't have a regret. No regret for that. Well, because I'm getting targeted now. Well, I'm not targeted. But I'm not regretting that we didn't call, because some lies could have been said. Right, exactly. And what I'm saying is this, okay? This is what I'm saying to you. I understand that, and that's the duty of a citizen, to call. We appreciate that. I mean, that's what. Right, but it's a civil duty, right? That's what it's supposed to do. Yeah, common sense. Yeah. I want to know. You said she called roughly before 3. So I don't know what time she got. She got to use the restroom. She saw her. Right. Okay. So yeah, you said you were what? Asleep? I was asleep. Yeah. Okay. And you said you consulted with her, or what did you? She woke up. She just said she was on fire. And I got up and looked. And she said, "I'm calling 911." I said, "Go right ahead." So when you looked out the window, what you seen? I just saw flames, man. Okay. That's all I saw. I ain't seen nothing else. Flames, man. Okay. Have you seen that around? No. Okay. So flames. Did you and your wife go outside? No. Okay. Because our morning starts too early. So anytime you go outside? No. When it happens, no need to go outside. Okay. Were you outside before she, at all before she woke up, or? Was I outside? Yes. I took a TV out. I had a TV. It was broke down in the room. What time was that? I don't know. I took it. Daylight, or? I think it was kind of like dark. I don't know what time. Because we don't have no room to put it. And I retrieved a little TV that I have from the basement and put it in the room. Because the other one was shorting out with the cable. Okay. So what time was that? I don't even know. How close was it to the time before she called? Oh, it was nothing going on there and there. Oh, long time. Yeah, but I don't know the time. I ain't look at it. Okay, that's fine. I just knew we had to get the TV out because it was one of the big old stuff. Yeah. So it was way before then. Yeah. Okay. So you and your wife never went outside. No. And you weren't out either. Did anybody come over? No. We don't have people coming over. I have girls
streets and stuff like that. You know, when I was single in the streets, yeah, I had people come over, you know, but I'm there.
Everybody got any keys to your house besides you and your wife?
Not to my knowledge.
They shouldn't have.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So you saw flames and looked out, and she looked out. How long was
She's
it?
on first. I be trying to sleep. Listen, my morning starts, like I say, about 4, 5, 6 in the morning.
Okay.
So, you know, and I'm up until whatever. And so I be trying to get some sleep whenever I can. Okay, you know.
So were you up around 2 or 3 a.m.?
She woke me up.
She woke you up?
Yeah.
Okay. You have an alarm system?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would chime if anybody came in or out, right?
But still.
Okay, did you hear your alarm or anything go off?
No, I normally rolls it. You know, we have a smoke detector in our alarm too.
Okay.
So, you know.
So no chimes or anything? You hear chimes in the doors? Or?
I do, but we don't set them.
Okay.
We don't set them at night, you know. I try to, you know, I'm still like old school. I try to leave my windows open, my door cracked.
Okay. Your door cracks right in what, the bedroom or?
The side door. And the windows downstairs.
Okay. But you know that nobody came in or out?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. There's nobody there though when
When you got home?
No, not when we came over that night of the fire and you saw it.
Not to my knowledge. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you, did the media come up to you, talk to you, anybody?
No. Nobody knocked on the door but Officer Smith.
Okay. You said you know the people at that house or you don't know them or?
No, I don't, man.
You've seen them before?
Oh, we walk in the neighborhood, but listen here, I'm like this here, man. I learned my lesson trying to be friendly with neighbors, man. You can't just do that. So I don't try to be friendly with neighbors no more. I'm done with that.
Okay.
You know, it's just the way it is now. This neighborhood didn't change since my mom, like I said, Mrs. McGinnis, and a few other people was here. They had the neighborhood watch. It was a better neighborhood. The kids was good. But now it can transition to renters and stuff like that. It's bad, man.
Right. So you mentioned some things last night about some bad people at the house or?
Well, to me, I thought it was bad. The stuff they was just doing immature stuff in the neighborhood.
Like what?
Shit, kicking vehicles, rearview mirrors, busting them out and stuff like that.
And who's doing that? Adults or kids?
Adults and kids. Yeah, man.
You know when people live in that house?
I told you I don't know them, but I tell you what, I keep an eye on. I know what's going on in the neighborhood. That's what I do know, yeah.
So let me ask you, what do you think the reason behind somebody, if somebody would have done something?
Well, like what?
If that was the case, we don't know definitely, but if that would be the case, what would be the reason?
But for the people?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I don't know what they was doing, man. You know, it's a lot of activity going on up here.
You mentioned to me last night, you said something about that house in Mary Jane.
Yeah.
What's something about that?
They was regulating down there.
Regulating what?
Weed.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm from.
Wait, let me tell you this.
No.
We have drug police.
I know what you said. No.
I don't care.
I know what you said. No. Yeah, I mean, I smoke back. Listen, I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm gonna tell you right here. If I come up in there, I come up with smoking. I don't smoke now.
Reefer.
Yeah, reefer.
Right.
Easy rider.
Yeah.
I don't smoke, man.
I got you. I'm not judging that. I mean, if you did, so.
But man, you didn't have
I was trying to understand.
the detective on it.
Right.
You didn't have to have him go in my house like that.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's not wrong with the code of law. Let me explain why. I come to know it not first and try to get you to come
You
down.
did not, and I was forced to, but let me tell you what. Okay, go ahead.
Because I can't. You
said me to come to downtown. Yeah, and I got.
Detective Lean, let me just interrupt you for a second here. You guys are referring to something that happened that day, is that fair?
Yes.
And what is it he's talking about knocking first?
We came out to visit first.
Okay. And that's the conversation he's reverting back to?
Yes.
Okay.
I was really going
That's
down.
not on this case.
Yeah, but listen.
Okay, well, today, I was gonna say, can we talk somewhere else? Because you mentioned, can we do somewhere else?
But you didn't do that like that.
Well, no, because I had supervisors, actually, you sent me people out
Listen,
here.
man, I went down there.
You sent me people out here. Some of these people are lieutenant sergeants, captains, majors.
And I think some of them probably, my name probably.
Well, I don't know about that.
And I hope not,
But there's a lot of detectives here.
I don't do nothing to nobody, man.
Listen to what I'm saying. I know a lot of times you're upset, I understand you're shaking, but what I'm saying is this, I need to get clarification on a couple things. Okay? And the best for me to do that is to talk. I appreciate you talking.
Okay, the word of mouth, that's what they was doing. I never went down there and bought no weed. I ain't never did that. This is a guy I was talking to a guy yesterday. He said, yeah, my boy used to go down there, stuff like that, man. But I'm a dictator doing it. I don't get in people's business.
Okay.
You know, I'm on my own business. And then I don't let nobody get in my business. Because what I'm doing ain't nobody's business. You understand what? Your business, you tell somebody that can hurt you.
So let me say this, man. You know the babies died in that fire, right?
Yeah, man. Listen, man, my heart goes out to you, man. I'm gonna go to church. Matter of fact, I'm not a member of the house of the Lord. My wife was like, go over there.
Right.
I'm gonna put them in the prayer, man.
That's fine, kids, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure they would appreciate that. You know, but
Let me tell you something. I didn't do that.
I'm not saying you did, but
I'm saying I did that.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm asking questions. I'm saying, you know, what I'm saying is you knew about some things at the house. That's why I'm asking.
I didn't know this word of mouth. I didn't see traffic. I don't know that for a fact what was going on down there. That's what you know. Word. You know how the street do, people, man.
Well, I understand the streets, but see, let me tell you what. Sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
A lot of times.
But a lot of times.
A lot of times it doesn't.
But
where people kind of have an idea, but they don't.
No, if they
see, law enforcement, let me tell you what we do. Okay? We are trained, highly trained. We get advanced training in forensics. We get advanced training in a lot of different areas.
Exactly.
Okay? And the reason we do that is so we can be sure. Okay? Certain. We have to be right all the time.
I got you.
Feel me?
Right.
We gotta be right. So, in saying that, we want to make sure we cover all bases. In order for us to do that, we need cooperation. We don't always get cooperation. And I understand, you have a right to privacy, people have a right to things. What I'm saying is, we still got to do our job.
Right.
It's just like when you deliver papers.
Right.
The papers have to be delivered. I'm not trying to hear, I was tired.
Yeah, I had to go.
I was asleep, or
yeah, they don't.
I didn't feel like doing it. They have their papers.
It's every day.
Right. It's like that. I had a brother did that.
Right.
So you have to have a business.
Yes, I did, and I did that. I did it.
So that's why I want you to help me have a business.
Man,
And what I'm saying is this. We've been looking and talking to a lot of people.
But you did this wrong.
No, I did it officially. I got the judge's signature. You're gonna get copies of everything. Okay, because everything we do is by the book, the judge, prosecutor, and then the judge.
Detective Louie, at that point, you're talking about doing signatures and getting the judge. What are you referring to there?
Official search warrant paperwork, officially doing it by protocol procedure.
All right. And that's where you're talking about getting the judge's signature.
Yes.
We respect you, dog. She was just a
Man, that guy came with whatever AK.
I mean, that's how police, that's how we execute search.
Not if I've been, I haven't been violent for no reason.
That doesn't necessarily mean that, but we can't assume that you won't be. You understand that?
Y'all know.
You understand
Y'all know.
that?
Y'all know.
I've had people, I went to school with that, listen,
Yeah, but y'all know I won't be like that.
we don't know people's state of mind, we don't know what people have been doing, and things change.
You know I'm
I'm not saying you're a bad person.
You know I'm gonna do that.
I'm not saying you're a bad person, you seem like a good dude. This is what I mean, okay? This is what I need. I need clarification. See, the thing that we have, we can't always divulge everything that we
Make
have.
clarification on what?
You mentioned, you said your wife called, you were asleep. Okay? Nobody came over, right?
Huh?
Nobody came over.
Not to my
You didn't leave out. You know, what time did you come out the house the next day?
But the next morning?
Yeah, it's a lot of
I came out 6:30 like I do every morning to see my wife. I make sure she, leave, look at the vehicle and stuff like that.
6:30 a.m.?
Yeah.
Those light out 10.
Yeah, but that's the time I take her out. And I've been doing that since we've been married.
What if I told you that there's some things that we have and some things that we know?
About what? No, about what? Tell
As
me.
far as you coming in and out. I'm just straightforward with you.
Coming in and what?
The house.
What house?
Your house.
What, 1370?
1370 Press Street. We ain't coming by
About what time was that though?
We'll get to that specifically, okay?
But
We will get to that specifically. The reason I want you to come down, I still want you to come downtown so I can show you some video and stuff, and pictures.
Of me coming in and out?
And looking at some people, potentially, okay?
Of me coming in and out?
Well, I'm not saying necessarily that, but what I'm saying is I need you to help me. I need you to help me because as we progress, as I said, I'm very good at what we do, and I like to give people a chance to talk to me. And sometimes, I mean, whether there's a situation or something happened, or a cause, or a backstory, you know, there's more than one. You know, there's always more than one story. Everybody has their story,
Right.
or situation, or circumstances. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, Stanley, I need to understand for these kids and these adults, because as you see, it's a round-the-clock situation. I understand being tired, but tired is not even an option. Waiting, standing by, you know, people telling us, I'm gonna get back to you, I don't know. That's not an option.
That's what I told you, sir.
It's not, you said, I'll let you know if I can.
No.
I tried to come.
No, sir, you said, this is what you said, well, okay, what time you take the kids to school? I said, one gotta be at 8, one gotta be by 8:30.
Right.
You said, well, I'll be by 9.
My work.
So you said, what about that? That's okay.
You take care of
And
yourself.
so,
We couldn't come.
and I told my sister what was going on, and they came over
Did you
there.
call me at the station?
No, because
Yeah, 24-hour push.
because you usually punch on your word.
I got you a card, right? It's 24 hours.
Yeah, but you punch on your word though.
I came back in an hour, so you come down.
Well, that's yeah. I'm gonna be down. I did come out. I didn't go down.
I want you to come downtown. She could have stayed with the kids.
No, that detail. I was
Like her and the kids.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Come on, I was tired, more tired than you.
I don't think so.
I was working 24 hours.
Yeah, but people get tired, and when you get tired, you're tired.
I understand. Okay, I get that.
At this point, Detective Looney, he just rehashed a conversation about the kids going off to school by 9 o'clock. Both of them would be gone. Fair?
Yes.
Did you wait until after that time to execute this search warrant?
Coincidentally, we did, yes, just by coincidence.
All right. So if the kids were there, it was after the time, would have been after the time that he said they would have been gone.
Yes.
At this point in time in the interview, we've heard 3 conversations that you've had with him. Were there any conversations that you had with him that aren't on these recordings?
There's another recording at the station, another interview.
That's after this one.
After, yes.
So at this point in time, is it fair to say that you did not tell him the information you knew about the videos and the alarms or anything of that nature?
That comes further in the recording, in the interview.
But you did not disclose to him what you knew at this point?
At this point, no.
And so he would not have been informed by you that you were aware or believed that he had entered the house right before the 911 call?
That's correct.
Okay, come on, man. But you still didn't, you know. So here we are.
Okay.
So we're talking now.
Right.
I need clarification. I need you to tell me if there's something that we need to know about, something happened between you and some people at that house, or?
I ain't had no beef with them. I hope they ain't had no beef with me. I don't even know them. I never knew them.
Somebody say something about the way, or anything like that?
Not to.
Let's just say something like that happened, okay? Hypothetical.
Okay.
You know, and I mean, I can't say how I feel. I'll probably be, upset. Obviously, you didn't have anything,
Right.
Be about your family, about your business.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let me ask you, is there anything you need to tell me now before we continue further? Because we're going to be still investigating.
Oh.
Is there anything that you've heard or that you know of?
No, listen, man, like I said, once in a while I talk to them people in the greenhouse, I talk to the Reds, I checked on him because he went out, and that's it. Once in a while I talk to this guy, and lately I haven't been talking to anybody, man, because I've been like, my wife been telling me I need to stay home and focus on my daughter, because my 10-year-old got some issues going on, so that's what I've been doing lately.
Okay. Now, you, as far as the house, anything in your house, and you saw a search warrant.
Right. So yes,
anything that we need to know about, or anything in there that's dangerous ordinance, or we don't.
I got gas and stuff like that.
Like what? What kind of gas?
For the lawnmower.
Where is it?
It's in the basement.
Okay. And what kind of container?
Gasoline container.
It's a red or red.
Yeah.
Anything else you keep in the house?
Like what?
Fuels, kerosene, anything like that?
I got some with that turpentine stuff.
You got a lighter fluid, anything like that?
I got no lighter fluid.
No lighter fluid?
No.
What's that saying? You got a cookout, you got a grill?
I got a grill.
Where is it kept?
It's in my mom's garage.
No.
Do you recall from the search warrant whether there was lighter fluid found?
Yes. Charcoal lighter fluid, yes.
All right. And there's some discussion about what do you call it, lighter fluid, charcoal lighter fluid, or something like that?
Yes.
But was there some found in his house?
Yes.
Well, yeah,
You got one on your side too, or you share a garage?
we just, it's whatever she left, I use it.
Okay,
You know, try to save money, man. I can't see going to buy stuff I already got.
okay. So let me ask you, is there any reason, maybe your memory is not, maybe you were asleep. Is there any, you said, you know definitely you were sleeping before she called, before she told me.
I was asleep when she woke me up.
Okay, what time did you go to sleep that night?
I was
Mother's Day, I know that.
It's not, man, it all depends. You know, listen,
What time did you go to sleep?
I don't know. Sometimes, that's how my sleep do. It just carries me to the bed. I just stretch out. I don't even look at the time when I lay down. I just lay down. And sometimes she get on me for laying down too long. She think I lay down too long.
Like on the couch, where you lay at? The couch?
I lay on the couch, the bed. Yeah.
Where'd you lay at that night?
On the bed.
Okay, so you in the bedroom? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. How many bedrooms you got?
We got two.
Just one for kids and one for your wife? Okay. Okay, so you definitely sleep?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we got a bed downstairs.
Okay, but nobody sleeps there, right?
I stretch out on it sometimes.
Okay, did you sleep that night? You slept in the bedroom where your wife sleep, right?
Right.
Okay. Help me out with something. I mean, we know it's just tragic what happened.
Exactly. I tell you that all the time,
When
man.
you say something like that, if somebody did that, should happen to that person.
Oh, man.
If that's the case.
Whoever did it, they need to be punished.
Okay, but what's happened to them?
I don't know. I don't know what kind of laws there should be applied to that. I don't know the law.
I got you.
But I didn't do it.
Okay.
So if you're looking at me like I did, I didn't do it. And I'm not going to confess to them like that because I didn't do it.
I'm not asking.
And I can't give you no detail. Man, I don't know what them guys was doing, man. Listen, they used to have people coming down there from Detroit.
Who did?
I used to get cars from Detroit. Michigan plates on there, man. There was a continental used to go right from Detroit, man.
Okay.
I don't know.
You seem pretty observant, man. I mean, you pretty observant, so.
Well, I have to, man. It's the stuff that I've been through with my own black people. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, when you try to grow up, you got some of them got the crap and trying to bring you down.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's why I don't like that. You know? I don't like
You
that.
observe.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. My mind is clear. But once upon a time, my mind was fogged, but now it's clear.
Okay.
Yeah. I see very clear now.
Okay. So you sleep light or sleep heavy?
Oh, I sleep night. I used to sleep in the
So did it wake you up when your wife went to the bathroom, or?
Well, she woke me up.
Or she had to wake you up? Did you wake up even if you're in like a light sleep, no one
No,
else in the bathroom?
No, only time I wake up if I got to use the restroom or something.
But I mean, that night, I'm talking about.
She said, Stanley, it's a fire. You know, I said, for real? I said, well, where? She said, over here, I'm gonna call 911. I said, go right ahead. You know, and I said, what? They go think we suspects. I don't know why.
What kind of clothes did you have on there? You rubber? What you sleep in?
What I was sleeping in?
Yeah.
I sleep with my underwear.
Okay, so no shirt, no pajamas, no.
Sometimes I have it, I leave like several in here, and I sleep with my shirt on, man.
Did you get dressed to look out, or?
No, I kept my underwear on.
You just have underwear on?
In the house, man.
Right. It's your house, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you have on that day earlier?
Some jeans.
What kind of shirt? Shirt, jacket, sweatshirt, anything?
I don't know, man. Sometimes I wear shirts. I don't know what kind of shirt I had on that day. Sometimes I press out the thin dress shirts, and sometimes I wear these
Did
shirts.
you do anything special for Mother's Day?
Oh, what? No, not actually. I just stayed around the house. I think we just stayed around the house. Mother's Day, we didn't do it. Yeah, sometimes, we save a little money. I take out the Red Lobster.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even like that anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we didn't do that. We just, I got up and cooked breakfast that morning for Mother's Day. That's what.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's nice, okay.
That's what we did. So we stayed home. And it was Sunday. I had told them we should go to church, and we didn't go to church. And all this stuff come crashing down.
Well, let me crash you down here. What I'm saying is.
And I know some of them people that come on here, they go to the house of the Lord.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just so we're clear on this, you're talking about Mother's Day. What day of the week or what day would that have been that year?
I believe Sunday.
All right, would that have
It's
been
Monday.
May 15th?
Yes, May 15th.
All right.
Katrina?
Yeah, you know, Katrina,
Yeah, man, I ain't mad at them, they doing a job, man. Nah, I ain't mad at you. I'm just pointing out how you get me, how you doing, man.
I got
Let's be detective.
Right.
You couldn't came out here by yourself.
I couldn't come by myself.
Yes, you could.
I'm like,
You could have came
I work with.
I know, you could
I got an
have
answer to, so.
Well, you could have came one of the people you work with, but you could have came by yourself.
Well, what needs you to come down still? I still kind of want you to come take a look at some photos and stuff. I need you.
Because I was feeling it in you, man. I could feel stuff, man.
Like what?
I feel that's what you want to do.
You didn't have a warrant.
That's what you did. You wanted a search warrant, and you wanted a warrant. And
I mean, that's not something that's really debatable. It's not, and that also is not always my decision. You know what I mean? Like I said, I got lieutenants, sergeants, captains, majors, assistant chief. All those people take everything into consideration, so it's not solely me. I ain't that special. Not yet. That's everything I am. I mean, we all got children. You know what I mean? So,
Exactly.
and I'm not saying I'm going to negate that or title or role makes anybody even better or anything or none of us are better than you or
Right.
me.
I don't look at myself better than nobody,
And what
man.
I'm saying is I need your help, so.
Yeah, well,
Because something
I told you, man, I helped you the best I could.
There's something really about it.
Like what? What's what?
I need clarification or something. That's what I'm
You said
saying.
clarification.
You said nobody came in your house.
You said what clarification
I'm
you
telling you right now. You said you never left out your house.
Which house?
Your house.
To go where?
13-7.
To go where?
The night of the fire, your wife woke you up.
Right.
You never left out. You said.
No,
Since she never went, you never went.
I went
And
outside.
you said she never.
I went outside earlier that night to take the TV over.
That was early.
Yeah.
But that's way before the fire.
Right.
You don't know what time exactly. But it wasn't within that. It wasn't before, was it?
I don't know what time it was,
Was
but
it before the fire happened?
it had been before, yeah.
I'm saying like right before it happened.
I don't know if you're right before. I put the TV upstairs, and this is big on TV.
You know what I'm saying? Right before it happened. Like did you go out and were you outside? Let me ask you direct. Were you outside and then came back in and she called 911?
No. What did I told you? I took the TV next door and we always,
So what like
well,
that?
sometimes we always in and out sometimes going over there because
But you weren't out that night, I'm saying. You weren't out right before.
I took the TV over there.
You weren't out right before she called.
No.
Okay, so no way you were outside.
No, not to my knowledge, but I know.
You know somebody came over. You said you came, right?
Yeah,
You sharp as far as knowing.
Did nobody come over my house, man?
Okay. Well, you said you sharp. You were aware.
Right.
You know, you were seasoned. You seasoned basically. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Listen to that.
Right. So
help me out.
So you said
If there's a reason that somebody came in your house right before, that's bothering me.
if somebody came in my house and then they came out.
Now I'm saying if somebody came in the house right before she called.
I have a problem with that too.
That's a huge problem. That's a huge problem.
No,
You feel where I'm at?
that didn't regulate like that, not to my knowledge. No,
You feel where I'm at?
yeah, I would feel that too. That didn't happen like that.
I need you to be straightforward with me.
I am straightforward.
I need you to help me out because this is I've always slept with. I'll be honest. I ain't giving you no game. I ain't giving you no speech.
Man, I am so worried. I've been running up on me.
I'm talking about that. I'm talking about before that.
Yeah, before, yeah.
See, I didn't talk to everybody's family.
Right, that's
I
fine.
didn't talk to everybody's siblings.
That's cool.
I didn't talk to everybody's mama.
Right. You talk to everybody on this block.
Sister. No. I'm talking about the families, the people that died.
Okay,
People that died.
but you told me.
I talked to everybody here too.
You told me not to talk.
I talked to people who have been out of town, people who have been, we met people at the job, we went out of town.
This guy here, everybody been down
We
talking?
knocked on the door, and I can verify that later, but what I'm saying is, we knocked on all these doors. Okay. We talked to a lot of people, I talked to the families, what I'm saying is, I'm talking to the families and kids.
And they said I had to beef with them?
No, I'm not saying, what I'm saying is, we got a huge problem, we gotta clear up.
I don't have a problem because.
We got a problem, we gotta clear up.
So you just told me that problem right there, but.
Yeah, that's huge,
But
right?
that didn't exist like that.
That's huge though, right?
Yeah, it would be huge if it happened like that. It is huge, if it happened like that.
Right.
Right.
Right, so why would that be the case? I can tell you definitely and show you definitely that somebody came in the house.
Somebody came to my house on 1370?
I got a huge problem. That's a huge problem that you have.
Oh, I went back in, I took the TV over there.
I ain't talking about that. I ain't talking about the TV. And you know what I'm talking about. I ain't talking about the TV.
All right.
I ain't talking about the TV stand. I ain't talking about that.
Only person be in and out of my house to be.
You said, well, nobody. You talking about
If anybody's in and out of our house, if anybody's in and out of my house, no, if anybody's in and out of our house, it's either be me or my wife.
Okay, well, there it is.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we have a right to be in and out of our house.
Of course.
Okay?
That's why I asked you specifically.
Right.
Did you come out right before she called? You told me no.
I don't believe I did. I don't believe I did.
I mean, I can tell you that you did.
Oh.
So at this point, Detective, you have now, it's indicated to him that you have proof that somebody came into his house. Is that fair?
That's fair, yes.
Okay, I think before we start back up, it's 10 after 12. Mr. Gorman has another commitment in another court that I told him I would honor because it's another judge. So we're going to go ahead and take our afternoon, or our lunch break, excuse me. It's 12:15. We're going to go a little longer just to make sure that he's done with what he needs to do in that other court. Remember the admonition I've given you at all breaks. Do not discuss the case amongst yourselves. Do not let anyone else talk about it in your presence. This includes family, friends, or the media. You must not post or read anything about this case on the internet or any electronic device, including your cell phone. Do not form and express an opinion on this case until it's finally been submitted to you. Leave your notepads upside down on your seats. And then if you'll be back in the jury room at 1:40, we'll start at that time. So we're gonna take a little longer break just to make sure you have time to handle your business. All right, we're adjourned.
All rise, please.
You can.